It's indeed a great pleasure to be with you again on Business Live for today. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Riafe. Coming up in this evening's edition, disbursement of donor funds as well as the fourth IMF are under threat as review mission fails to reach agreement with government on some key targets. Businesses who earlier paid new terminal charges to shipping lines at the ports in contravention of the Transport Minister's order for suspension are venting their spleen on the shipping lines that imposed charges, saying they will go for refund. The Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems GIPS is to roll out a new strategy which will make the east-wage payment system as popular as mobile money transactions. These are the headlines. Coming away, these with several other stories right here on the program. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Riafe. We're taking a short break. The details come up shortly.
Business Live today is brought to you by GCB Bank.
You're welcome back. Now, the disbursement of huge donor funds as well as a fourth tranche of IMF cash before the end of this year could be under threat. It follows the inability of the visiting IMF mission to reach an agreement with government over some key targets under the third review. George Riafe has more.
Reaching agreement with government on the said targets would have resulted in the IMF staff finalizing their report on Ghana's performance under the third review. This would have made it possible for the team to finalize work on Ghana's report card for the proposed middle of September date executive board meeting. Performing well could have left the board with no option than to approve the disbursement of some $116 million to support the country's imports. This would have also triggered the release of some $600 million from the country's donor partners, who are waiting for Ghana to pass the third review before the funds are released. However, at the end of the mission visit, the team in a statement noted that outstanding questions still remain with regard to certain elements of the legislations recently passed by Parliament, and discussions will continue. Joy Business understands that there are some issues with the country's fiscal data and clearance of the energy sector debts. For many, these disbursements are needed badly because of the current challenges facing government's revenue as well as the deficit issues. Again, some are also worried that the uncertainties could result in the rating agencies and investors punishing the country badly, a development that could hurt the economy.
In spite of all these, Finance Minister Setekpe insists government has made progress with the IMF under the third review. He tells Joy Business government is committed to completing the program.
Engagement with the IMF is continuing, and that is why the IMF program itself plans for 4, 5, 6 reviews. Every IMF program plans for review. And that is because the engagement has to be continued. We have email engagement, we have conference call engagements, we have video conference engagements. This may be less known, to the public. So the fact that they are saying that, engagement has to be continuous, is something which to say must be seen in the context of the normal implementation of an IMF program. And Ghana is not new to IMF programs. Indeed, you and your station are not new to IMF programs. And you can go back, to other programs in the past, and you will see this engagement. You know that the IMF set as prior action, taking 2 major bills, in addition to what we were taking in Parliament already. In fact, those 2 bills were already on their way to Parliament because they are part of our own business and, Bank of Ghana's reform.
Away from that, some shippers are venting their spleen on the shipping lines that imposed new terminal handling charges, even when the transport minister had earlier called for the suspension of the charges. Government had earlier ordered shipping lines to withdraw the terminal handling charges introduced at the country's ports last August. This follows recent agitations by key business associations against the charges. Now, the associations say they will go for a refund of the payment made since they were illegally collected by the implementing shipping lines. The spokesperson for the key business associations, Adobia Esiama Abuaji, explains the association's position earlier on the marketplace.
Precisely, we are going back to the shipping lines to claim a refund because they set up charges. We went to petition the Honorable Minister. While the Minister was taking time to understand the issues and get advice, he said the charge be on suspension until I decide or give a ruling on the case. Meanwhile, other lines were still charging. But of course, the clearing process or the shipping industry is such that once the cargo lands here at port of destination, the shipping line has a lot of power in releasing the cargo. And until they release it, you can have access. And that will depend on the fact that they have received their charges. So shippers were forced to pay just to avoid other charges being accrued. So in this case, we just go back and say, give me a refund of the charge I paid because it was illegitimate at the time. So I must say we are very grateful. We are most grateful to the Honorable Minister for taking this decision in our favor. And of course, appreciating the fact that the charge was not warranted, there was no justification for it. And so we are very grateful that it has been called off. And the next thing we are going to do is to ensure that shippers in Ghana get to know what their right is, and they do not pay this charge if it should come up as part of their invoices locally here.
Now, operators of the electronic payment system EaseWage have rolled out a new strategy aimed at increasing accessibility to the service. The transactions, which are currently conducted by banks, is now being expanded to include agents. The aim of the operators, Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems GIPS, is to make the EaseWage payment system as popular as mobile money transactions.
The EaseWage card was introduced by the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems GIPS to offer a secure way of withdrawing money as well as paying for goods and services. However, since its introduction in 2008, patronage of the payment system, which is conducted by commercial banks, remains low. Operators are now adopting a new approach to increase the level of patronage. Just like mobile cash transactions, GIPS is now including agents to offer the service. General Manager of Projects and Business Development, Clara Arthur, says GIPS is targeting 200 agents in the Greater Accra region alone by end of the year. She spoke to Joy Business at an agents meeting in Accra.
Initially, when we launched EaseWage, we were working with banks. So it meant that for you to be able to enroll for a card, you have to go to a bank branch. It is still the case. If you need to withdraw cash, you need to go to a bank branch. We realized that card holders were being frustrated sometimes when they go to a bank branch. So if you go to a bank branch, they probably tell you the network is down, nobody's ready to save you. And we sat back and saw, well, maybe it's time to change the approach. Still working with banks, the approach is to look at what the mobile financial services have done to ride on their back. And for me, that's where the collaboration in all this digital and financial inclusion comes in, whereby we would ride on what they have done and done quite well now, because you cross the road, you find a mobile money agent. So why not ride on that and make sure that we can set up and put a little point of sale device in an agent shop where card holders can actually walk across and transact. So that is why we are doing this.
Meanwhile, agents have called on GIPS to increase awareness about the EaseWage payment system and also allowed them to issue cards.
I, for instance, I'm in the microfinance institution, yes, and the people I deal with are like the market men. I'm in a shareman there, and they're willing to move from their place of, business, even an inch, but we need to take the cards to them and get them registered. So there should be that means to get it easy access for them. And I think the whole group of us here who are in the agent line want that thing to be established, which I think it's a thing they are really going to look into. Yes, the next thing is how we can get our e-cash onto our system.
Business need patronage, so we want people to be part of it. when the public is part of it and the number or the subscribers are more, is that we also get our commissions increase or our payment or our salary or whatever it is to go up. But if the public is not part of it and is only limited to some few people, it will not help us.
In other news, Dean of the Center for International Education at the University of Cape Coast, Professor Rosemond Bohene, is calling for a policy that will ensure entrepreneurship is instituted as part of programs offered in all universities. She believes this would make university graduates become more entrepreneurial and help address the problem of unemployment in the country.
Graduate unemployment remains a teething problem in Ghana today. There are currently about 300,000 unemployed graduates in the country, and the number is set to further increase by the end of this year. Some have blamed it on the university's inability to churn out graduates with employable skills, while others have blamed it on the lack of jobs. Whatever the problem is, the Dean of the Center for International Education at the University of Cape Coast, Professor Rosemond Bohene, says it's high time entrepreneurship is incorporated into university programs. Speaking to Joy Business at a webinar organized by Knowledge Sharing Community TEDx Accra in partnership with the Association of African Universities, she explained why such a program is important.
Entrepreneurship cannot eliminate unemployment, but it can help reduce it. So all that we have to do in our higher educational institutions is just to help the students develop the entrepreneurial mindset, and those who want to go into business, we help them develop the ideas, nurture them, and see if they can start businesses and grow them into viable and scalable businesses. So entrepreneurship cannot remove unemployment, it can just help to reduce it. What I suggest is that when we are teaching entrepreneurship, of course the pedagogical strategies we use should combine both theory and practice, so that whatever the students are taught in the classroom, they will be able to apply it. It is when they apply that they will be encouraged to try out whether they can even start their businesses or they will not be able to start.
Director of ICT Services and Knowledge Management of the Association of African Universities, Nodumo Dlamini, says it is an agenda they are hoping to further pursue.
In terms of policy, our engagement is in ensuring that universities are aware of the importance of entrepreneurship education, and we do this through various fora and platforms where we bring universities in the continent together to deliberate on key issues such as entrepreneurship. Then after those fora, we normally come up with communiques or commitments that are being made by the vice chancellors. So there are commitments at an institutional level, and if the vice chancellors agree that this is what they want to do and it's important, then they go back to their institutions and implement.
All right, so it's now time to take a look at the stocks and the equities on the stock exchange, and of course, which ones are attracting positive returns on the exchange. And to do that, Bertha Atubiga, our stock analyst, is here, but not until she tells us what happened last week. Bertha, good evening.
Good evening.
Which stocks were trading positively last week?
Okay, at the close of last week, we saw the major indices actually inch up positively. They closed with their returns at negative 9.27% and negative 10.96% respectively. We saw the volumes and value actually go down comparing to previous week, and then if you look at the worth of the exchange, it's also dropped by 197.84 million Ghana cedis. Talking about the equities that are actually returning positively to investors currently on the Ghana Stock Exchange, we have just a few of them. And if you look at the year-to-date returns of all the listed equities, most of them or almost all of them are recording negative year-to-date returns. FML is currently returning the highest in terms of returns to investors. That's FML, if you look at its year-to-date return, is around 35%. Okay, so 32.52% for FML. And then a few financial equities are also returning positively. That's 5.54%. That's GCB. And we also have SIC returning 14.29% to investors. And the last one is Standard Chartered Bank Preference Share, which is returning 5.63% to investors. So these are the only equities that are returning positively to investors as at the close of last week. And we also had some equities lose on their previous week opening quotes, and some also gained. ETI was part of the gainers, but today it has shed off the peso gain it had last week, and it's back to 15 pesos. It closed at 16 pesos, and HFC gained 3 pesos, and today it has added a peso again to close at 76 pesos per share. And we had a FML gaining 24 pesos last week, and it's currently at 9 cedis 74 pesos per share. Today it traded some volumes of shares on the exchange as well, and we had PZ Cousins adding 5%, adding a peso to its week open value on the stock market.
So briefly tell us which equities are recording positive returns today, as of today, in the stock market.
As of today, most of the equities, when you look at the year-to-date returns, we still have the same equities.
Okay.
The same FML, SIC, and then GCB, and the Standard Chartered Bank Preference Share. They are still the equities that are returning positively to investors on the stock market today.
So these are
if you look,
these are the most attractive.
not that. Okay, FML is one of the most attractive equities now on the exchange, because we are even anticipating that it might even go above 10 Ghana cedis before the close of the year. And if it is at 9 cedis 47 pesos, 74 pesos, I mean, it's still a good buy.
Sure.
And those who are having shares of FML are encouraged or advised to hold on to it, because there are still better stars for FML on the Ghana Stock Exchange. And if you look at FML's financials, trust me, by the end of the year, they're going to come up with very, very impressive financials. If the currency continues to be stable and our energy is still stable like we're having it now, then we should expect more from FML.
GCB, the way GCB has been moving from time past.
You know, GCB,
soaring up.
yes, GCB for some time was actually adding up to investors' capital. But if you remember, somewhere last week, it shed off some of its gains.
Okay.
But notwithstanding, it's a very good buy.
Okay.
From ages, GCB has been a very good stock and is still a good stock on the exchange.
Right. Thank you very much.
You're
We'll wait
welcome.
until Friday and see whether some of these equities that are, catching up will maintain their momentum
Definitely.
at the end of the week. Thank
Especially
you very much,
FML.
Beta.
You're
Sure.
welcome.
Thank you. So that was Beta Atubiga, stock market analyst, bringing us up to speed with development on the stock market. Now, time for the interview of the day. And some players of the insurance industry have emphasized on the need to meaningfully break down insurance policies in order to give clients a better understanding of the technicalities involved. This, according to the head of business development at Star Assurance, Justice Amwanyaku, once told the challenges encountered in the operations of insurance companies and to rope in more customers. He spoke to Joy Business at the launch of Unibank's bank assurance products in partnership with Star Assurance.
Insurance, like you have always known, seems to be a bit more technical in our delivery, and therefore sometimes when it gets to issues of policy interpretations at the time of claims, it poses a bit of challenge. But that's when we as Star Assurance come in to try and educate the public more about the tenets and the benefits that the client stands to gain, and especially the things that the customer needs to support any claim that he wants to make on the insurance company. I believe that as we have regulators who regulate our activities, including claims payments, including policy issuance, the public has to be assured that their interests are being protected, their level of confidence in the insurance markets has to be maintained, because we are in to serve them and give them what they require to protect themselves and to protect their businesses as well.
Many thanks for joining me on this edition of Business Live. Until we come here again tomorrow, you can get interactive by tweeting at Joy Business. GH is the handle. On Facebook, the page is Joy Business. And for more business news update, log on to myjoyonline.com/business. My name is Emmanuel Abuaji Wiafe.